That's insane. Okay, cool. So, you come up with the concept, wine bar, modern French food, right?
Yep.
Stepping away from the croque madame and all that French bistro kind of old school stuff.
Yep.
How do you come about finding the space?
Well, Blake was the one who actually found the real estate agent.
Okay.
And Blake and Drew went around the first time with the real estate agent, looking at spaces, didn't really see anything. And then the next time, now at this point, everybody had left their like primary job and was just working in other places, basically to pay the bills.
Okay.
You know, like Drew was no longer a GM. He was bartending at a place where he had a flexible schedule and still made good money.
Yeah.
Blake was working at an Italian restaurant, doing like prep for them, basically, you know, paying the bills. I was still with the same restaurant group, but at that point I was in between like their several businesses.
Gotcha.
So my schedule was a little bit more flexible at that point.
Did they know what you were doing?
I mean, it was never a mystery that I would one day want to open my own spot.
Heard.
You know, there was talk at one point. They said, well, you know, pitch us something. You know, if you ever decide you're going to open your own place, like pitch it to us. Like, we're not saying we'll do it or not do it, but you should pitch it to us.
Yeah.
And we would have done that. It's just we ended up finding a spot that we just didn't really need a partner like that for.
Understood.
But anyway, the second time I ended up going because I was off and Blake was not with us because he was working. Mm-hmm. And Drew and I go with the real estate agent and we come to this place. And it's a rundown pizza place. But for whatever reason, after seeing the backyard and seeing the layout of the building, which it was completely different. Like, this wall didn't exist. The bar was not in there. This floor is new because this is where the bar was.
Right,
and that was all dining room. So it's like we changed everything. But for whatever reason, we just walked through. And I remember I had this big backyard and a balcony back there. So I walk up to the top of the balcony and Drew's up there too. And I said, is it just me or is this it? And he kind of looked around. He's like, I don't know why, but he goes, I think it might be it.
Yeah.
And it was the idea of being in a neighborhood that was off the beaten path, but at the same time, very accessible and easy to find. Because when you pull up, there's like a new restaurant next to us, you know, a lot of renovated businesses around us. But when we came here, there was a place called Red's Chinese, which is 2 spaces down, but that was it.
Gotcha.
There was no other restaurants on this block.
Yeah, that didn't exist. It was just an old rundown tire shop.
Yeah.
These 2 buildings next to us were abandoned buildings, like falling over, you know, but for whatever reason, we just thought that this neighborhood was going to do well. And the fact that we were on St. Claude and we were across the street from like a dive bar that was really well known as far as a location. So we could just be like, yeah, we're on St. Claude right across the street from Saturn Bar.
Yeah.
And it just felt right. And we did it. We had $10,000 between the 3 of us at the time, and we were able to work out a deal to where we could get the building, and then we raised basically $80,000 just cold calling people.
Yeah.
Raised $80,000 to do the renovations. We really needed like $150 to do them, but we only raised $80, so we did all the renovations ourselves.
Yeah.
And we did it all in 6 months and got open, and that was that.
Word up. Damn.
We opened with $6,000 in the bank account, but we owed $14,000 to like lumber companies and things like that were due in like 2 weeks. So we technically opened with like a negative amount of money, which usually is suicide for a restaurant to have no nest egg at all. But fortunately for us, we were busy from the get-go.
Yeah.
So we were able to...
How did you get busy from the get-go? Was there a lot of marketing behind the opening, or was this just, or were there less like, there's no other restaurant and they're opening a restaurant here, let's go here? If this is your neighborhood, you know.
I mean, I'll say this: it's like Mike had just gotten Food and Wine Best New Chef, you know, like relatively soon to when we left, like within 2 years.
Heard.
So it's like the hype of that, you know, again, not that wasn't our award, but I'm saying we were coming from a place that
because they're like, oh, those guys work for Mike. Let's check it out.
Exactly.
Get it.
That's great.
Yeah, you know, so it's the idea of like, here's this place that everybody still remembers, like the award, and it was very busy and things like that, and everybody knew Mike, and it was like these were his 2 opening sous chefs here, and they work with him at August before, so it's like, and the people that work for the, the writers for the local newspaper and things like that knew us through Mike, so we got some write-ups like that.
Yeah.
And then ultimately we're just busy.
Yeah,
people,
caught fire quickly, huh?
People just came.
How many covers can you do in here?
We do 18.
18 in the tasting?
Sometimes we'll do 20, but that's the most.
Plus a full bar a la carte?
Yeah.
50 to so people.
Got you. And then outdoors, what is that?
That's a la carte bar as well.
Okay, a la carte
Yeah,
bar.
all that's the same.
Yeah.
I'd
Okay.
say 50 to 70 people a night, roughly,
Yeah.
or so. Yeah.
So is the tasting menu completely different from the bar a la carte menu, or can
Yes.
you can't get
cannot.
anything on that menu?
Nope.
Okay, got you. So it makes you want to get this.
Yeah.
right.
Exactly.
Okay, understood.
We're currently booked 30 days out.
Yeah.
And roughly 50 people on the waiting list.
Yeah.
Like at any given time.
What was the tasting menu price when you opened versus now?
I think we started in like the $60 range, and now we're at about 110.
Got you. How many courses?
So we do 5 primary courses, but you got a couple rounds of
Small
amuse
bites and stuff.
things
Okay,
like that.
got
yeah.
you.
Yeah, like an amuse shot to start. Too.
Yeah.
See,
I
we
think
have some upcharges. Well, it's not all there. We do black and white truffle. We do
Jamón ibérico, I can
exactly,
see,
and
yeah.
caviar.
Yeah.
So we'll do some upcharge things and like that. Try to make it to where the upcharge things are small bites and not courses, because we want to keep everybody.
Yeah, because you don't want the
pace.
upcharge to be like $150.
Yeah, and just keep the flow
Yeah,
going.
keep it. Yeah, because every hour it's the same amount of people, and they're expected to be here on time. So we're expected that their courses kind of like start and finish at the same time.
So you come out here and address the whole dining room?
No, so we do 4 or 6 people every hour.
Oh, okay, got you.
So we basically, it's like, the second round is starting when the first round might have 1 or 2 courses.
Got you. Okay.
Because a lot of the way we cook, you can only do for 4 or 6 people at a time.
Yeah.
So it's like all the garlic and shallot will get cut to order, or like if we roast, if we're roasting squab, we're roasting the squab breasts on the frame, and you just put the whole frame over the coals. But the thing is
you only do so many. You can't do 15 frames.
Yeah.
So basically, it's like 4 or 6 is how many portions we can get out of those 2 squab breasts on the flame. So that's how it works. Or like lobster, if we butcher that to order or something like that, it's like you can only get so many portions out of the lobster. So it would screw up the whole flow if we had to butcher 2 lobster to order or whatever. And then like even small things, it's like if we did an 8 an hour, we wouldn't be able to cut our shallot to order or something.
Exactly.
And it's like, would people notice? I don't know. But the thing is we notice how it feels when you do that. It's like when you're cutting things or cleaning things to order, it's just the care that goes into it. It's like when you're filleting a fish to order, you're less likely to overcook it, or people get the care that go with it than if they just are already lined up ready to
And it's
go.
what we order. It's like you really can't fuck up.
Yeah.
Like you can't. Like if we bring in sometimes we bring in live fish and Ikejime, and it's like you can't fuck that up.
No.
When it's time, because we don't bring in to where we have
20 other
fuck
fish
ups.
on plus. Yeah.
It's like if you, like we don't bring in the exact to the gram, but at the same time, it's like you can't just fuck up regularly.
Exactly.
Because it costs, And it's me and Trey, and then it's 3 other cooks. One of those are on dish, and then we also run food a little bit and talk. So it's like, it's a lot going on. So if we had a larger staff, we probably could do a little bit more. But
do you want that?
No.
Got you.
No. 18 is great. I could see a world where we would regularly do 20 per night, but I don't see a world of us doing more than that.
Yeah.
There's just no need. The business does pretty well.
Yeah.
Very well, really. And we're going to open another restaurant soon. That'll be geared more towards making money. It'll be a larger restaurant.
Got you. In the same style of food as this place, or totally
different. We're kind of keeping it under the cuff a little bit right now, but it's going to be totally different and geared towards making a good bit of money. And the idea is that having a place where we can be passionate about that place doing volume and having the standard of a place that, the standard is not the same standard as cooking for 4 or 6 people at a time, but it's the standard of saying, if we're doing volume, this is really great quality for a place that's this size.
Gotcha.
So we'll have that sort of standard there. I mean, obviously you always want it to be as good as possible, but there's a different standard for doing 250 covers a night versus doing 18.
Yeah.
But the idea is revenue from that restaurant will just help us make the 18 or 20 covers we do a night here a better experience for our guests and for our staff and team, and we'll just keep reinvesting the money like that. We want to open places that can make once we have sort of a restaurant group, generate a lot of revenue where everybody can get paid well and we have resources and things, but at the same time focus reinvestment into St.Germain, because we want to basically keep increasing the quality here to where it can always be a sort of beacon of quality for the other restaurants as well.
Would you ever move this restaurant, or would you keep it here and renovate this?
I could see a world. The only thing that would make us move, we would always have this restaurant, but I could see a world where maybe this place would be more focused on the bar aspect of it, and maybe we would open a tasting menu restaurant somewhere where they do Michelin.
Move the tasting room.
That would be the only.
Michelin will come here because they're slowly.
Yeah, well, they're in Orlando, Florida, so I'm like, why the fuck not? Like,
we want them to come here.
Shit.
And
I don't understand why they're not everywhere. I'm also not that smart of a person, so maybe.
But it's like, if the second restaurant does really well, and a hotel was like, we'd love you to open a restaurant in Miami. If we opened a big place and then potentially opened a tasting menu place attached, it's like maybe something like that could happen or something like that. But I would say being in a Michelin rated place would be the only thing that would make us potentially
want to move it.
Yeah.
Heard. Hell yeah.
And it's not because we just care about accolades. That's not the thing. But it's like the type of, it's like when you're talking about fine dining food, it's like people ask me, they're like, is it a craft? Is it art? Is it whatever? We always say, or at least what I say, and I think Blake agrees, is it's somewhere between a sport and art at this point, where there is like, yes, we are creating a new menu every month. We are trying to push the boundary with how creative we can get. But then there's also pushing how far you can take the cuisine in terms of just physically keeping up. Like we'll get spot prawn here and we'll roast the whole spot prawn, and then it's a logistical challenge to get the spot prawn out of the pan, take the heads off. We'll stuff the heads with like saffron butter or something like that. We'll fold paper, like wax paper, tie it around the head nice with like a bow and clip it and put that on the side, where you could pick up the head and squeeze the butter out that's infused with the juices onto the tail. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's a stuffed head and a tail. But to get that done a la minute, where it's still, and if, it's like we did one of those where we stuffed it with shallot. So now it's like we're mincing the shallot to order. All these are easy, but to get them done within like 4 minutes is because you need the head to still be warm from the pan, and we would stuff it with some fresh cut shallot and a little bit of butter and tie it so when they squeeze it, their hands aren't dirty or they're not, but you can't put the paper on before you cook it, so it's like just these things of, it's like super simple, but there is a logistical thing of like, all right, y'all need to have your string cut, your wax paper folded, perfectly ready to go, laid out on a clean cutting board. We're gonna sear the spot prawn. It's coming off. You maybe have 20-30 seconds of it to sit in the shell and kind of rest after being cooked and still stay a little warm. Then the shell's coming off. It's getting sliced on the bowl. The bowl's warm enough to keep it warm without cooking it. You also cook it kind of rare, so you have a little bit of time there for heat. But it's like that head's got to be ready to go and still be hot. Then it all goes to the table, so it's like something super simple, but there is a sort of sports team sort of.
Yeah, and then there's bar tickets coming in.
Yeah.
Like randomly. You have no idea when because that's just, they come in when they come in. Sometimes you have none, sometimes you have 30. So like not 30 tickets, but just 30 people. I mean, it comes in when it comes in. And like now the people here, they're not coming here in the bar to get dinner. They're coming here to have a fun night and drink wine and have snacks. and that, you know, involves eating. But it's not like, you know, if there's four tops, that means like everything's like organized. It means like four tops sit down. What do you want to drink? What do you want to eat?